Anyway, we see a little bit of recovery going on right now because China came out and cut interest rates. They slashed them to help flood their market with more currency. It effectively makes the yuan cheaper than the dollar. Now, the problem with all of this, of course, guys, is that we owe them dollars, not renminbi or yuan. So guess what, folks? Our tab, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. It's bigger in relation to where their currency is. And if that's not all here, you take into the fact that if we want to sell our goods in China, well, our goods get hit with tariffs. And it makes our goods even more expensive. China is also stealing our intellectual property. They're hacking into our computers. Presidential candidate Carly Fiorina telling me this is the time to strike back. Watch this.
Tried over the last several years to engineer a soft landing for their economy, and it appears they have not succeeded in doing so. Frankly, I think now is the time for us to put pressure on China.
Donald Trump is also pledging to do the exact same. Former New York Governor George Pataki and presidential candidate joins me here on set right now. Governor, always good to see you.
Good being on with you, Trish.
How would you tackle China right now?
Well, I would tackle the United States. You know, we should make things here instead of having to import them from China. But we have the worst tax structure of any country in the developed world. We have the highest tax on corporations and manufacturing. I'd have the lowest tax. Let's make things in America again, create jobs here, bring the $2 trillion our companies have sitting offshore back to invest in America. We should be growing this economy twice as fast as we are today.
Makes total sense. Absolutely. There's no reason to leave all that money overseas. Overseas economies are benefiting from it. But let me ask you about, in the China case, it's so cheap for them to manufacture and send goods here, especially now. The lower their rates go, the cheaper their currency is, the cheaper their goods are. So, you know, Americans, they want cheap stuff, right? We love going to Walmart and getting good deals.
Of course we love cheap stuff, and their stuff might get cheaper. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It's not that China is doing a better job than we are. We're doing a worse job than any other developed country in the world. And we have an economic climate where between the tax structure and the regulatory structure, people move jobs offshore. The whole inversion thing that I'm sure you followed are American companies buying foreign companies for one reason only, so they pay lower foreign taxes instead of American taxes. We're going to put up a wall. The first and second largest economies in the world aren't going to disengage, but we can outcompete them.
Okay, so we're going to do stuff to improve our economic situation, improve our corporate situation and taxes. But what about, you know, in the meantime, you still got China out there. They're still manufacturing very cheaply. Do you fight back? Do you say, you know what, guys, if you're going to sell American stuff in China, you can't slap tariffs on it if we're not doing the same in kind.
They shouldn't slap tariffs on it. But another thing we should be doing is pushing the Trans-Pacific Partnership. If we don't want to have to deal so much with China, let's deal more with South Korea and Japan and Vietnam and the Philippines and Malaysia. So getting that agreement through, assuming it's a good agreement that is ultimately negotiated, will strengthen both our economic and political ties with Asian countries, not China.
What do you do?
Strengthen America, develop better ties with the non-Chinese economies over there, make things here, and let the Chinese do what they do. They're not going to listen to us anyway. Would you add
tariffs for Chinese goods coming into the U.S.? Should there be a tariff?
No, I think we should get them to lower theirs, not to raise ours. But on the other hand, you know, with trade, if they start dumping things here, if they're using government support to have artificially low prices, then we have the right to retaliate, and we should.
What about their currency? Would you say, guys, you know, you can't keep depressing it?
Can I tell you something? We have been manipulating our currency. We've had essentially zero interest rates at the Fed for 7 years. Why did we do that? We did it to weaken the American currency. We've had a race to the bottom. Europe and the central bank have lowered their interest rates, lowered their currency. Japan has been doing it for 20 years. And now all of a sudden Japan lowers the yuan by 1.9% because they float it. You know, yes, it's going to have short-term consequences, but let's strengthen America, strengthen our relationship with the rest of the world, make things here again, give the American worker and entrepreneur a chance to compete fairly, and we're going to grow our economy. We're not going to have to worry about that.
Governor, he's come out swinging against you, saying some pretty terrible stuff on Twitter. Donald Trump, that is. Do we have the tweets, everyone?
Compliment.
He's calling you the worst governor in New York. What do you say in response?
Well, then why did he support me and say how many great things I had done? And by the way, how many millions did he save because I cut taxes by more than the other 49 states combined?
So you worked with him. I mean, he's got a lot of businesses here. You worked with him.
Well, I didn't work directly with his businesses, but I dealt with them because he was obviously a figure, and we always got along fine. But Trish, I'll tell you, being added to the list of those who are insulted by Donald Trump is kind of like a badge of honor.
Well, you're in good company.
Whether it's immigrants or war heroes, POWs, Megyn Kelly, me, most of the other candidates. I mean, this is just ridiculous.